Hi, I'm Mary Mamaliti, and you're listening to the Kitchen Confession Podcast. I'm a food blogger with a passion for cooking, and empowering others is what drives me. Here are a few things you may not know about me. I'm legally blind. I have retinitis pigmentosa, a degenerative eye disease. I smile all the time. To me, cooking is about people, and food brings people together. So join me in the kitchen, and let's get cooking. And today, I'm talking with Dan Barra-Berger, and we're going to talk a bit about your experiences in the kitchen, good and bad.
That's right.
So welcome, Dan.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
How are you today?
I'm very well. Very well.
Good. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name's Dan. I am legally blind. I have 2 detached retinas, twice the fun. And so I lost the vision in my left eye when I was 7, and the right eye for just really no good reason later, about 20 years after that. And so my vision's just incredibly hazy and, significantly damaged, but I bonk around with the best of them. And I'm a stand-up comic here in Toronto, and I love to travel and cook in my spare time. I have a YouTube channel about backpacking, and that's pretty much what I do.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Do you have any experiences that you want to share that either in the kitchen, back in the kitchen, your very first time in the kitchen?
Oh, geez, I was damn near born in a kitchen. My mom really instilled a lot of my love for cooking in from my youth, and she's actually totally blind, and it's not hereditary. It's just bad luck on our family's part. Got bad eyes, and but she it has been. Neither of us like the word inspirational, but like to me directly, I can kind of lean on her for. I've been influenced heavily by her. I think that's probably the best way to say it, because when people ask me like, what's it like having a parent with a disability? I have no idea, because she carries it so well that you don't know that she has a disability, and that's the most prevalent and obvious in the kitchen. And again, she's totally blind, no light, no shapes, nothing, and uses a gas stove, has a phenomenal knife set, all kinds of things, and she's just not afraid. And I think there is that level of fear having low vision and being near heat. That's a very natural fear to have. Don't go near the hot thing. The hot thing is hot. That makes sense.
Right.
You don't have to be blind to be afraid of the hot thing. But she, by her own admission, is crazy as a bag of snakes, and she flips bacon in the frying pan with her bare fingers, and she'll, are these potatoes done? Hang on, they've been in the oven at 375 or 400 for 40 minutes. Better touch them, and just bop, 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 and just feels it around, and nope, it needs more time.
Oh, and she's my kind of cook.
Yeah, I like it. I love the hands-on cooking, and so I grew up watching her doing this, and a lot of our best moments were in the kitchen. Either, I'm not gonna always say best, but a lot of big moments have been surrounded, or we're in our kitchen, anyways.
Now, fast forward to today.
Yes.
Was there ever, or has there ever been, a meal that you prepared that, maybe didn't go over so well, or best or worst reactions to one of your meals?
From myself or from other people?
Others. We'll say others.
Because I'm my own worst critic. I don't want to big myself up too much, but I love to practice what I'm making before I let anyone else try it. So I'm my own guinea pig. So luckily I haven't had, it's either that or people are just too polite and don't want to offend the blind guy. It's like, oh my God, he made it, but it's blue. Like, why is it
I just want
blue?
to test that out one day. Just put just garbage on the table and just say, here, guys, go at it.
Exactly.
And see if anyone will actually say, okay, this is horrible.
Yeah, exactly. And my best meal recently was roasted butternut squash soup, and there was this recipe that I found on. It's one of my favorite YouTube channels. It's Food Wishes. It's this chef John. He's fantastic. He's a total dork, but he's a really, really. I think he's a really talented chef, and it was a fantastic thing of soup. But his recipe only made 1 liter. I'm like, well, I can just double this. This is no problem. And roasting 2 giant squashes in a small apartment oven, and then making 2 liters of soup in what I call my Nona pot. I've got this, and like you knew exactly what a Nona pot's going to be, and
definitely.
And it was right to the brim. It was very. I made a mess. there was an unapologetic mess. And if you live with a blind person, there is very real chance that there will end up at some point soup on the ceiling. How does it get there? Don't ask the questions. It just
exactly
there it is. And so I made that, and I made corn muffins with scallions in them, and some cheddar soda bread. And
that all sounds good. You're making me hungry.
It was, well, I'm not gonna lie, all the flavor pairings worked quite well together, but then I was paranoid because I'm like, well, this is, I made it, and I'm like, oh well, there could be a little more salt, or it was too thick or whatever, and I didn't
an extra
have
eggshell.
Exactly. Yeah. there could be extra stock or something. And I'm like, and I'm just standing there sulking while everyone is eating the dinner. And they're like, oh man, it's really good. There's 11 other people there claiming how good it is. And I'm like, you're just saying that because I'm blind and just getting off.
We're our own worst critics.
Exactly. Yeah. And I secretly, I thought it was quite good, but it could always be better. Right. So yeah, I think that was probably most recently the best meal that I've done and the best response. But
have you noticed a difference? So for myself, when my eyesight deteriorated, so I basically would shy away from the kitchen when my eyesight did deteriorate, because I thought, what am I going to do now? How am I going to do this? I only know one way of doing it.
Right.
And something that I did in the past find a lot of pleasure in, cooking and feeding people. Never at this level, but I always did. Coming from an Italian background, always had people over, large meals. When my eyesight deteriorated, I noticed I had to rejig things the way I did things in the kitchen, and it took me a while to reintroduce myself. Did you come across any of that? Did you find that you had to do things a certain way in order to familiarize yourself again with the kitchen?
I did and I didn't, because I guess in a sort of macabre way that I was lucky that my mom is blind, because a lot of what I've learned, like knife handling and the way that you deal with food, has all been touch based, because we learn these things from our parents, and so there were a lot of things that I already knew, but I was definitely afraid at first of using knives, and I quickly learned the importance of having properly sharpened knives. And you lose the tips of your fingers here and there, or you get a couple nicks, and it's like, all right, well, let's start again. As long as I've got all my fingers, I'm good to go. I'll just power on through. But so there were some. There was definitely trepidation at the start, especially around heat. The biggest problem I have is learning new ovens and stoves, or if I'm at one of my friends' houses or something and I'm going to be cooking for or with them, to have to lean across the stove to get my face right up to see which element I'm turning on.
Up close and personal.
Exactly. And because every oven manufacturer has to be, their own special selves, they always change up which. It's like, all right, I want the front left element. Haha, jerk, that's the back right. And it's like, well, this makes no sense at all. There's no logic to it. Or God forbid you get one of those glass top ones with
I was just going to ask you, do you prefer electric or gas? I know what your answer is going to be, but I need you to say it.
Definitely gas.
Yeah.
Definitely gas, because it's instant. You know what's happening. You hear it, you smell it, you see it, and if you're not quick enough, you touch it, and it's definitely gas is my favorite. And like those awful, I know when we spoke the first time, we mentioned about the glass top ones who are awful. And many hostels that I went to while I was backpacking had these glass top, and usually they're touch sensitive buttons right in the cooking surface, sometimes between all the elements.
Oh, so that's a complete nightmare.
Exactly. Yeah. So usually when I'm backpacking, I'll have 2 or 3 fingerprints missing. I
was just gonna say, do you have your fingerprints?
Yeah, they've mostly come back, but yeah, they go pretty quick, because it's like, oh, is that? Nope, and now I need help. But usually people, that's when I'm pretty quick to, hey, can I get a hand turning on this element? And it's like, oh yeah, for sure.
Speaking of that,
yes.
Do you have any tips and tricks? So, for example, when you do your frying, do you use a regular frying pan, or do you use a pot which has the high sides?
I like to live dangerously. I use the frying pan.
So do I.
It's, I mean, that's what its job is there, or that's what its job is, right?
Right.
It's I realized, well, my housemate pointed out something since the last time that we spoke, that I when I'm heating up a pan and I'm not sure I'm ready to throw in the meat or whatever, I listen for the butter or the oil, whatever I put in. I listen for it, or I know by smell when butter is ready. I don't even realize it, but I'll get them to shut off or turn down the volume on the TV, or shut off the Spotify or whatever when I'm about to put something into a pan, so I can listen to it. And or
what do you listen for? Do you listen for a quick sizzle? Do you listen for like a hiss?
Yeah, exactly. There's like the whole range. There's if you just get a bit of a then all right, it's not totally, well, depending what I'm doing, but let's say I'm gonna do like a veal cutlet, like breaded veal or something. You want to get that pretty hot, and so if it just does a little hissing sizzle, it's not ready. And I'll just put some water on my fingers and flick it at the pan.
I was just going to say, I usually live a little dangerously.
Yeah.
And I take a drop of water and I drop that into the pan and I listen to that sizzle.
Yeah. And it's a really good system. And if you hear it go, whoa, okay, that's a little too high. If it kind of hits and pops right off, okay, yeah, maybe a bit high. But
what's your butter tip? Because I know a lot of people do different things, but I'm interested to hear yours. Because we tend to, with the butter, it browns so easily and so quickly. So what's your tip?
First of all, if I need to coat a pan, I use butter like a glue stick. And I just peel back the foil and just draw in the pan until it's all slippy. And for me, it's just something I know the smell. Once it starts to get nutty.
I was just gonna say
yeah. Once you start smelling that kind of nutty scent to it, it's like, okay, it's ready. It's like almost beyond ready at that point. And then if you're browning butter, it's you gotta get to that. I'd get to that point and then turn it down.
What about your cutting boards? Because I have a couple of techniques that I use. There's one cutting board in particular that slides all over the counter. So what I do is I usually dampen a tea towel, put it down, put my cutting board on top, and it kind of keeps it in place.
Yeah.
I've also found that there's these cutting boards, I think KitchenAid makes them, and the handles on the sides are rubber. Okay. It's like a silicone. Right. We'll say, and that actually grips your counter. So it kind of prevents it from sliding around. Oh, okay. Do you have any tips that you do to kind of keep your cutting board in place? I know some people that put it in a baking sheet.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. I think
Or you just work with it?
my cutting boards they're pretty garbo. They're not great. But what I do, yeah, I've done the tea towel thing before. I've sometimes I'll just take I've got a drawer full of like the broccoli elastics or and that I'll just chuck a couple on the counter and slap the thing down because that seems to be enough grip.
Oh, that's a good
for
idea.
me. Yeah, it's and yeah, I don't really have enough tea towels to dedicate one to scooting or to preventing them from scooting around. But yeah, throw some rubber things under there, and it seems to help. Or like I have one of those rubber lid can open or bottle openers or jar openers, like the rubber grips.
I think everyone should have that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that works famously for these for that. And then yeah, it definitely helps, as I said before, having extremely sharp knives.
Paring knife or large chopping knife? Or like a chef knife?
Yeah, well, both really. I like my favorite. I've got this little. I don't know. It's maybe 5 inches long, kind of Santoku chef's knife thing, and I love it. If I have that and what I call my food cane. It's this olive wood little spatula dealie that I've had for over 10 years. And I backpack with it. I bring it with me, and I'm just so used to it, and I can feel the food and everything with it. I don't know. Like I say, it's my
like
food
a
cane.
blankie.
It is my blankie. Yeah, yeah. That's slowly degrading and putting splinters into my food.
And will be a toothpick soon.
Exactly. But you know what? I'm gonna go with it to the bitter end. So, but between that and my good knife, it's not even a great knife, but it gets the job done. So I think learning backpacking has taught me to make do with what you've got.
So Dan, you mentioned that you've done a lot of traveling and that you've cooked while you've traveled.
Yes.
And you've cooked in some pretty interesting places.
It's true. There's while backpacking, well, you've got to eat, and you get pretty sick pretty quickly of just pasta every day, just boring old box pasta and just generic tomato sauce from Lidl or whatever grocery store you find the cheapest pasta sauce in. And so loving food and traveling with some good friends of mine who are also very good cooks in their own right. I've been lucky enough to make some really weird stuff in some really demonstrably sketchy places. The two of my friends who I've traveled with, we were in Portugal last year. 2016 now. Wow, time goes. And we were in this hostel, and we decided to fry some chicken wings. And the kitchen in the hostel was in the attic of this hostel with extremely low light. We had to use our phone cameras to light up the room. We found this big wonky wok, and we're pretty sure we don't, none of us could read Portuguese. We think peanut oil, and which then heated it up over this kind of sketchy gas stove, which had two options, off or inferno, and it felt like we were launching a SpaceX rocket when we were turning it on. And but yeah, geez, it was some of the best chicken wings I've ever had. Anyways, we managed to get it at an insanely high temp. And I'm glad that the hostel never found out that we did this. It's probably incredibly dangerous, but yeah, we fried up some lovely wings. And then my buddy who I've worked on my YouTube channel with, Tyler Fitzpatrick, he's actually a musician in the city here, and he's on Spotify and all this. He and we met while he was traveling and busking all over Europe, and we met in France, and since that was 5-6 years ago, and we've since become really good friends, and he's my roommate now. When we were in this hostel together in France, we decided we need to start making real food, and using the limited equipment we had, an electric stovetop, no oven, and some really old ratty equipment. We ended up making currywurst, like curried sausage, potatoes. We made this pork and leek soup, this cream soup. It was phenomenal. We made quiche and nachos on the stovetop, and
there's the quiche.
It always comes back to quiche. And no, actually, to be fair, it was a frittata because we couldn't find any shell for the quiche. So, but yeah, either way, it's even lazier quiche.
An egg pie.
There you go. Exactly. It was an egg pie. It was it came out as kind of like a leek and bacon egg disc, but it was a very good leek and bacon egg disc. So, and so yeah, we bonded a lot over that, and there's something communal about cooking in a it is very communal because that's the nature of it. You're cooking with a group of other people, but I love that ideal of cooking together, and which is something that with my family and my friends growing up, cooking has always been something to do with other people. And I loved how in hostels that will bring people who you might not necessarily speak the same language, but food is food is food. Music and food are the two international languages. And I'm lucky enough to have traveled with one of my best friends who knows both those languages very, very well. So, and it always reminded me of this one quote that I saw in Germany in a restaurant in a bakery actually in Germany, and it said Brot. My German's awful. Brotzeit ist die schönste Zeit, and it means literally bread time is the most beautiful time, which, being French, of course it is. So literally that's what it means, but figuratively it means bread time being like the breaking of bread with other people, family and togetherness, and that time is the most beautiful time. And I really believe that, and I think cooking in hostels or cooking with family, or just even if you've got one other person in the kitchen, the cooking it's about the food, but it's also about eating and sharing an experience, because it's a good excuse to talk, It
is.
Yeah.
Some of the best conversations happen around food and a dinner table.
Exactly. I totally believe that.
All right, so now I'm going to introduce our segment, This or That, where I give you the choice between two kitchen items, and you either select this or that.
This or that. This or that. This or that.
Sounds pretty complicated.
All right, let's start.
All right.
Now I'm going to give you just a second. As soon as I read you the two items, you'll have a second to choose one of them.
Okay, so gut response.
All right.
All right.
Let's go. Savory or sweet?
Savory.
Bacon or cooking?
Cooking.
Eating chili with a spoon or fork?
Hands.
Soap on the sponge, or do you soak your dishes in water?
Soap on a sponge.
Jamie Oliver or Bobby Flay?
Jamie Oliver.
Iron Chef or chopped?
Chopped.
Parsley or cilantro?
Cilantro.
Okay. Do you open your banana from the top, where the stem is, or the bottom?
The bottom.
Really?
Yeah. It's
All
because
right.
you get a little handle with the stem. Yeah.
Do you eat the entire apple, core included, or do you eat just the apple and you toss the core?
What, like a horse with the core included? No, I throw away the core.
The core. Snack or no snacks?
I snack. I'm a snacker.
Cake or cookies?
Ooh, cookies.
This is a tough one. Mac and cheese or pizza?
Pizza.
Okay, our next segment, our rapid fire segment. I'm going to give you a few questions. You're going to have a second to respond.
Okay.
Not even two, just 1 second.
Whoa, all right.
One.
Pressure's on.
Okay, what's your favorite ingredient to cook with? I feel like that. Dun, 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 dun.
Oh God. Anything? Okay, you're gonna have to ask me that one again.
Okay, we're gonna loop back to that one.
All right.
What would be the scariest ingredient to work with?
Lobsters. Anything with a shell. They're awful. It's terrifying.
What's your favorite meal of the day and why?
Breakfast, because you can have it at any time of day. I don't care what anyone says.
What's your food guilty pleasure?
Bologna and the fake cheese on white bread. That's my
I don't mean to laugh. I'm sorry.
Oh no, that's all right.
Okay, we're gonna loop back. What's your favorite ingredient to cook with?
That is definitely. Oh God, I'm so sorry.
That's a good thing. So you enjoy cooking with everything.
Yeah. You know what? I cook a lot with. Oh God, a lot of my stuff involves bread of some fashion. I love sandwiches, so let's just call it bread.
Bread.
Yeah.
All right. So your favorite ingredient to cook with? Bread.
Yeah. It's incredibly boring, but yeah.
On to our next segment. True or false? Can you freestyle with ingredients when baking? No need to measure all ingredients. True or false?
True if you've done everything important already. Like if you've got the base down and then you just want to faff around with maybe, all right, I've got my bread made, like all the dough's ready. Maybe I'll throw in some jalapenos or scallions. That's when you can kind of freestyle with it. But otherwise, it's a total science, and don't screw around.
Okay, so you redeemed yourself there.
Thank you.
Yes, it is. It's a total science. So that is false. It's a total science. And every ingredient has to be precise.
Yeah.
Perfect. Question number 2. You can use any pan you like to bake. Square, round, it doesn't make a difference.
I'm going to say true because it depends. To me, it depends on what you're making. The shape shouldn't matter, but that might explain some of the things that I've made. If the flavor comes out a little funky, maybe I've got the wrong shape. So
that is actually false. If a recipe actually says to use a 9-inch round pan, you can't substitute that for a square because then your ingredients will have to actually be adjusted.
I guess, yeah.
Remember, back to the science.
Yeah. See, I went to school for English, not math or geometry. wasn't my jam.
All right. Next question. Baking soda will last forever.
God, I hope it does. I'm gonna say true.
It is.
All right. I've got this box that I've had forever, so.
It does. Stored in a cool place and sealed tightly, baking soda can last decades.
Oh.
It's kind of scary though when you think about it.
That is.
Okay. Alcohol bakes off in the oven.
It's either going into the baking or into me. So hopefully yes. I believe it does.
False.
Oh.
So about 50% actually does bake off, but 50% does remain. I mean, you're not going to get drunk off a piece of rum cake.
Well, not with that attitude.
But it definitely will remain. 50% does remain within your baked goods.
Well, that's good then. That's
all
good
right.
to know.
Last one. You can make a substitute for buttermilk when you're in a bind.
Yes, you can with milk and I think a bit of lemon juice. High fat milk and a bit of lemon juice.
You are correct.
Sweet. Thanks, Mom.
Well, you've mentioned your YouTube channel, but you haven't told us how we can actually find you.
Oh, well, I am kind of rejiggering the focus of the YouTube channel, but it's called 3 Points of Contact. It's about living and traveling with a disability, and I'm shifting it more to having adventures and living with a disability in Toronto specifically. There's going to be some more comedy stuff coming up there soon. You can find me on Twitter where I post a lot of my upcoming comedy shows. I'm at Dan Berra-Berger on Twitter and the Instagram and all of this. Dan Berra-Berger Comedy on Facebook. And yeah, I'm just in open mic rooms and booked nights here in Toronto and hopefully soon outside of the city. So if you want to come see some see a blind guy do some comedy and maybe walk into
Definitely.
a glass window or something, then I'll do it. Yeah,
Definitely
I really
will.
appreciate it.
I definitely will. And I know we've talked about this word, but Dan, you inspire me.
Oh,
and thank you so much for coming and chatting with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a total pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Kitchen Confession podcast. For recipes and foodie finds, head over to kitchenconfession.com. I also want to thank our producer, Wilson Lin, and remind you to join us next week for more guest kitchen confessions. See you at the next episode.